Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Sex, Lies, and Consciousness with your luscious hostess, May Vu, broadcasting live every Monday at 12 noon Pacific Time.
Welcome to the show, everyone. This is May. Happy Monday. You know, as I'm writing up the show, I just realized this week that I have never told you what it is that I do, other than being your luscious radio host for SLC. And so I'm going to tell you a bit of that, and then I'll introduce the guest today and the topic. I am a coach and a speaker for divorced women who are dating again and couples in crisis. And as a special thank you gift to support all of my listeners out there, every week I set aside 1 full hour complimentary to offer you a discovery session with me. Yep, that's right. It's all about you time. This is the best way I know to be of service and to provide value to your life. So when you spend some time with me, your life will change. All you have to do is email me the words "pick me" in the subject line, and stay tuned. I will give out my email address during the commercial break. So today, let me see. Oh, she's on. Yay! Today, I have a really great show for us. It is on the big hot subject, HPV. And I have with me a very beautiful and amazing, talented woman. Her name is Ariel Lauren. Ariel, am I saying your name right?
It's Ariel, but I respond to both.
Ariel, that's right. I've been like going back and forth. Is it Ariel or Ariel? Ariel Lauren. She is the founder of Corset magazine. Is that right? Did I say that?
That's correct. Yes, okay. That's correct.
Corset magazine is this beautiful. If you've never seen it, it's this beautiful magazine. It's the go-to magazine for all things sexuality. And this is what the copy write, and I just want to read it because it's so inspiring. It said, "We embrace human curiosity, we honor sensuality, we celebrate sex, and we want you to join our movement." And it just seems so much in alignment with Sex, Life, Business, what I'm trying to do with this radio show, to have everyday conversations about sex, anything related to sex, so that we could normalize our human experience with our sexual being on this earth. So I'm so glad to have Ariel here. And also I have with me another special guest who is, his name is Ben Rohde. And Ben is, I think you guys have heard him before. Ben and Jen are the founders of Explosive Sexual Healing, and they are awesome healers, and they use the technology of female ejaculations to create deep healing for all of our emotional wounds in a woman. So anyway, I've had the pleasure and the benefit and the thrill of receiving 2 sessions from Ben and Jen, and it really have changed my life and opened myself up to so much more, so much freedom, so much space inside me. So I'm so glad that he's here. He jumped on last minute to join us in this conversation. So welcome, Ben.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just standing in my kitchen with my baby. Standing here in my boxers because I had no idea we were doing this call, and so I guess we're talking about HPV, which I actually know nothing about, but I do have a lot of opinions about everything. So,
well, it's really nice to have the male perspective in here, so it'd be great. And whatever reaction you have about this would be super cool, because that's what my show is about. You know, it's like us hanging out in your kitchen, you know, talking about random stuff around sex, and it's like, hey, HPV just happened to come up. And so I'm thrilled that you're here. And Ariel, I'm so thrilled that you're here. I found Ariel on Facebook. I was just cruising by one day, and I saw her comment about this subject for one of her group, and I'm like, who is this woman? I got to know her. So I'm so glad that you're here. Ariel, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more, like something personal about yourself and a bit about Corset Magazine, so people have a sense of who you are, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. So, as you said, I'm the editor-in-chief of Corset Magazine. So I run a magazine that's basically dedicated to all things sexuality. We started off in 2011, so we're almost 2 years old, and we have a growing international audience of people who are supporting our movement, which I'm really, really grateful for. Prior to starting Corset, I used to be a sex columnist / writer, so I always used to take on, pretty controversial, issues related to sexuality in addition to just reader questions. So, when I saw the whole Michael Douglas thing come up about, him potentially receiving his throat cancer from performing cunnilingus on a woman and, contracting HPV, I just didn't like the hysteria that kind of came out of it and the conversation that was being had about basically, men performing oral sex on women. So that's when I posted the CDC facts and, got a conversation started.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just saw that we have another guest on the show. Oh, this is so exciting. We have two men. So we have my friend Godfrey Nash. He's from Canada. So he's calling in also. So yay on two male perspective. Godfrey, you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Well, hello, everybody. This was, I'm not in my boxers. I'm fully dressed. Sorry to disappoint you.
What is this, Skype or something?
But I also spontaneously joined this discussion because I actually thought we were going to talk about sexless marriage. I don't even know what HPV is, but I'm sure that it contributes somehow to sexless marriage. To tell me a bit about myself, I do personal coaching around relationship and sexuality. Been working in that field for a dozen years or more. And certainly sexuality as a form of expression, as a part of relationship, is something that is grossly misunderstood, and we have all been misguided throughout history. And it's showing up now in the condition not only of relationships, but of the entire planet. So I'm on a mission to change that.
Yay! And I actually did do some work with Godfrey so many years ago. It's actually, the work with Godfrey really had opened me up to my sensuality, to soften me into the softer side of being a woman. I'm just so good at being strong, independent, and out there, and spending a whole weekend with Godfrey and in his dungeon to be tied up and just really learn to surrender and what that means and how to reclaim my sexuality and my safety around sex was just beautiful work. So I really do support your work, Godfrey, and I'm so glad you're here. It's unexpected, and I know that you guys are unexpected, but I know how intelligent and how heartfelt both of you are, Ben and Godfrey, that I think will create a really great conversation today. So let me just back up a little bit and put a little context around this, and then Ariel and I will dive in a little bit more, and you guys jump in and share with us, because I think this subject has so many angles and so many opinions and all this stuff that it will be just really fun today. So, like Ariel has referred to, this really came out from recently. Michael Douglas was interviewed in the Guardian, and to quote him, he said that I lost my notes on where he quoted him from, but he said that he had throat cancers, and this particular cancer is caused by something called HPV, which is human papilloma virus, which actually comes from cunnilingus. Which, if you don't know what cunnilingus means, it's when you go down on a woman, right? Is that just what it means, right? Just when you go down on a pussy, right? It's not a blowjob when you go. Okay,
fellatio is a blowjob.
That's right. Because my audience are international also, and so I want to make sure that English is a second language for people like me. They would understand what these words mean. So, anyway, what triggered me on this one is when I heard that, I'm like, oh my God. So now this is going to create more freak out over men and women's relationship to sex. And, we're already having so many shame issues and shame and embarrassment and restrictions around our sexuality, that to have a major star, movie star, to come out and say, I got throat cancer and it's because I went down on my woman, I just thought, this is hell. So anyway, and then when I saw Ariel's comment, I was like, here's a sister that I need to get on the show with. And to talk about sexually transmitted diseases and stuff like that, it's not easy because not many people want to talk about this thing. So I'm glad that we're here. Ariel, tell them about your perspective around this thing, honey.
I hope that was taken out of context.
It really wasn't, which is what the sad thing was. My perspective is that, obviously the media, just the way that it works and the way that it makes money, obviously, it thrives off of sensationalism. So I understand that, they take the quote and they blow it out of proportion, which I'm sure Michael Douglas didn't intend to set off a huge kind of firestorm, in conversation about is women's pleasure jeopardizing, men's health, essentially. But the truth of the matter is, when you actually look at the research that's being done, a lot of the research related to HPV is still being developed. So, there really haven't been, in terms of just the numbers, that strong of a link to, actual, things that could be really, really harmful to your body, cancer or genital warts or, et cetera. When I actually pulled the CDC statistics, really it was 0.1% of the U.S. population actually develops a form of HPV, because there are many different strands of HPV. So 0.1% of the population actually develops a form of HPV that ends up turning into something like cancer. Most HPV, most of the strands, when humans, contract it, our immune systems naturally clear it up. So, even your doctor will tell you, go to your gynecologist, and you're tested, women are tested usually through pap smears. They really haven't developed a way to test men like that. But, women are tested through pap smears, and when they go, and if your cells come back abnormal and they say you have low-risk HPV cells or you have high-risk HPV cells, they usually say, you know what, don't panic, don't worry. There's nothing you can really take. Just try to strengthen your immune system, eat right, exercise, et cetera, and your immune system should clear it up. So my thing was, why are we having this huge freak out, when really, even medical professionals are saying this really isn't that big of a deal according to the research that's out right now?
Okay, so you've given us a whole show right there in one sentence. I love it. And I'm going to slow it down because everything that you said is so important, and I want to, slow down and highlight each portion of what you just said. So first of all, the numbers of this thing. I actually looked that up today on the CDC, what is that called? The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And the number for each year, about 26,000 people catch HPV or has attributed cancer via HPV. It's not even a direct link. So the number is 26,000, and the population in the U.S. is 316 million, 68,875 people. So I just did the math. It's actually 0.01%. It's not even 1%. So it's 0.01% that this is even something related to, throat cancer or cancer any form on the HPV virus. And then the other thing
I am willing to take that risk for cunnilingus.
Yay!
Hear, hear.
I will take the throat cancer if I'm the 0.01%, but I'm not, because again, I have a theory that it's all about sexual shame anyway.
That's right, and we can definitely talk about that, honey. Yeah, totally. And then the other thing that I think is really important, and this is a quote directly from the CDC, is that because HPV is so common and usually invisible, the only sure way to prevent it is not to have sexual contact whatsoever. Even people with only one lifetime partner, only people with only one lifetime sex partner can get HPV. So it's almost ludicrous that we have been talking about this, or they're even selling vaccines about this stuff to me. Ariel?
What was the last thing you said?
I said it's even ludicrous that we're even talking about this and blowing it up so much. I mean, HPV has been around for a long time. It's like somehow I'm suspicious about this. It just feels like the pharmaceutical just discovered another way to sell stuff to us or something. And, it's like.
There have been theories that, when this whole story kind of developed, there were actually even, medical professionals who were like, wow, it sure makes the whole conspiracy theory about, pharmaceutical companies planting stories. For instance, the HPV vaccine is the newest thing that's come out related to the disease, and everyone's trying to, not everyone, but the media and some, a lot of pharmaceutical companies obviously are pushing for kids to get vaccinated. And there's been a lot of parents who have said, no, like, we haven't even seen, like, what are the effects of these vaccinations? Like, there hasn't been enough testing done. It's too new. And on top of that, your immune system can clear it up on its own. So why am I giving my child another vaccination? And, it's really become a hot debate for a lot of parents, on this issue.
I think
say me?
Yep, go ahead, honey.
I'd like to express an opinion on this, and certainly in agreement with the medical industry is hugely driven by commercial drugs, the pharmaceuticals. They're out to make a profit, and so encouraging a vaccine for anything that they can imagine, and they do imagine things to hype up, instill fear in people so that they can sell them drugs. That's to make a profit. The whole medical industry is driven by that. So backing up, the problem is not oral sex. The problem is how our society is set up to be misguided and allowing ourselves to be misguided. I also think that it's irresponsible for people with high profile, such as movie stars or sports stars. Now, the fact that society pays attention to those people is sad in itself, but for people who do have a high profile, they need to take responsibility for their impact on society because they do know lots of people. Now, he should never have made that statement, especially with the facts. It's such a tiny portion of the population that have acquired HPV. And it's even doubtful whether it came from oral sex. So what the hell is he talking about? Where does he get his information from?
I want to say real quick that I did see an article. Right when this came out, I was like, what the hell is this? And then I saw an article that was talked where Michael Douglas commented and said, no, that was taken way out of context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did see that.
I didn't actually read any of the articles because I'm just calling balderdash on all of it.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna throw Michael Douglas under the bus, just because sensational journalism. I've been at the shitty end of sensational journalism too, and we have a TV show coming out, and we'll probably be at the bottom of some more. So
What do you do
I
again?
have no
Stick
idea.
your fingers up women's vagina? Is that it?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to step over Godfrey's point, which I think is really important, which is how is it as a society that we are so crazy or so crazed that we can let ourselves be misguided by these quotes and everything? Because like you, Ben, when I first saw that, I just oh, whatever, let's move on. And then as I see this thing build up, that's why I thought it would be really important for us to have a more normalized conversation around this. We're not trying to sell anything. We just want to talk about this like normal human being around this. It's like, is HPV, is it really that scary thing, or is it nothing? And what is it about us in our psyche that allowed us to get so wigged out about such things and then get all controversial and crazy about this? So I think that's a really important point here.
Yeah, and I'm 29, and I was actually young enough to just get in and get the get the what's it called, the shot to not
vaccine?
Get HPV. Yeah, the vaccine. Thank you. So I actually got the vaccine, and I got it because I met a woman, and she was amazing, and she said, I need you to know I have HPV. And it's something that, plenty of people get it. It's no big deal and whatever. And I was like, oh, well, I didn't, so I went and did some research about it, and I saw there was a vaccine, and I'm just, I figured if I could collect vaccines on all STDs, I might as well do that. And so I went and got the HPV vaccine, and it was just me being able to tell people I have the HPV vaccine. Like to tell the women I was seeing I have the HPV vaccine. It says I'm responsible. It says because HPV isn't something that. From my understanding, it was that men don't actually develop anything from it. It's the men are just the carriers, and then it's the women that develop something. So that was something else that kind of threw me with the Michael Douglas thing as kind of weird. Does that make sense? Does anybody know anything about that? About the men being the carriers and women having the actual effect?
Ariel, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I would think that's pretty accurate. Like the research in terms of men, developing anything is like minuscule. It's so rare. Not saying that it doesn't happen, but it's rare for men to develop, genital warts or, some form of cancer, from the HPV. Usually it's women who are affected just because, frankly put, our vaginas are more sensitive than penises. So it was really interesting to kind of hear him come out and say that, and I'm like, how rare is it, and then it becomes this sensational story. So yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, and for me, where I'm trigger or most, like my champion cape, I put that on kind of thing, is because since I work with divorced women who are dating again, I hear so many stories. I can't tell you of women who are so ashamed to date again because they have some kind of like that, like they're like, oh, I have HPV or I have herpes or something, and they literally shut themselves down and feel so shamed and so dirty that they can't really fully date. And so when I see the sensationalization of this thing, and then to see that they can't really test a man fully. I did see on my research today that there are some new tests that they can test it on a man, but it just seems like a lot of wasted money here. But anyway, and then so you can't really test it in a man, but you can test in a woman. So it's, again, puts so much burden onto the woman, and then so we're the one that has a little label that said you have HPV, and then we have to be going to men saying, I have HPV, and the men get to be so innocent and so clean. Oh, I don't have any, it just kind of like makes the whole thing so out of balance. And it's so painful for a woman. So that's where I get really triggered about this whole thing. It's just like, I want to be the voice to let the woman know that, honey, there's nothing wrong with this thing. You're okay. And if you don't stress out about this, and like Ariel said, and the research said, your immune system will take care of this thing. It's in everybody. It's not just in you, the woman. And so there's something terribly wrong about that to me.
Yeah. Yes.
Somebody comment.
I don't know. I'm looking up the Michael Douglas thing right now, trying to find thought I was taken out of context.
Yeah. So anyway, so then as you work with women and all that stuff, does sexual diseases and stuff like that come up at all in any of the conversations?
Yeah. Okay. So I actually do have a lot to say about that too. So we do get women that come in that, we have one woman specifically who has herpes, who was in, a few months ago, and that was one of the things she wanted to work on, was healing her shame around sex and hopefully, healing her herpes. And so what was great was that, she did heal her shame around sex, and with it came the stress that would, with that healing came the healing of the stress that would cause the herpes outbreaks, and so when she would, so now when she dates a new guy and she's way more comfortable just saying, hey, look, I have herpes, and she said that she has never had a guy get upset about it or turn her down for it, or so it's. And then my last girlfriend, my girlfriend just before I met my wife, she has I don't even know what it is now. I mean, that's how big of a deal it was to me. I don't even know what the hell it is. But she had something, and she just completed the One Taste coaching course, and she just gave a talk to the entire course about her shame around, her sexuality and around whatever it was, but and how like her coming out to the world about it, saying coming out to 80 people in this course and saying, hey, I have this STD and it's no big deal for me anymore. Like just that in itself was majorly healing, and she's also had the same experience where every single guy she's come out to about it, has not had a problem at all, And it wasn't a problem to me because I don't have shame around sex. And so she would have these, I think in our 2.5-year relationship, she might have had 2 breakouts the entire time. And it was all when she was having a lot of stress in her life. And so, she had a cold sore on her vagina, and, it wasn't a big deal to me. I loved her. I loved her, unconditionally. Like it was, I still love her. My wife and her are like best friends right now, and she would get a cold sore on her vagina, and it didn't matter to me, and I would still have sex with her, and I would still go down on her, and I do not have herpes. I don't have anything. It's just I really feel strongly that it's all about sexual shame. It's all around a mindset, and I create my own reality. I'm creating the reality for myself that STDs don't affect me, and I really feel like that's a big piece of it.
I really so appreciate hearing you said that and have it caught on record like this, because I try to say that to my clients and my girlfriends out there, and I swear to you, it's so hard for the women to hear that, so hard for them to really get, really, you mean a man would accept me, if I have herpes and that kind of stuff, and it's just like, in my explorations with men, I've experienced about 35, 37 men in 3 years, and I have to tell you, no man ever brought up that they have STD or anything. I have to always ask. I have to be the one that can insist on a condom. I'm the one that's responsible. Men just don't talk about these things, and they don't touch these things. It's just really kind of weird about that. But what I notice is that women really are so shamed by it, they just shut down on this. I'm curious, Arya, what do you encounter in your work?
Oh my goodness! Actually, I just want to say that was such a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that, and especially like just the stance about creating your life, because that's true, and I it's hard to explain this to people who are not in the whole kind of metaphysical lifestyle, who are not very spiritually grounded like that, because they think from a purely Western medical perspective, not understanding that our health is so linked with other aspects of ourselves, with that, whether that's like spirit, whether that's mentally, emotionally, physically, it's all intertwined. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Yeah.
So, but with my with the women that I tend to write for that read my magazine, we've had all sorts of stories. I've thought about doing an issue on STDs. I'm thinking about doing it next year because I think it's a really important conversation to have. But it's a hard conversation to have as well.
Yeah.
The advice that I give my girlfriends, behind closed doors, when one of them calls me and says, oh my gosh, I caught something, or, I have herpes, or, oh my God, like nobody's going to want to touch me ever again, like my life is over. Like the advice I give them is very different than the advice that I usually broadcast publicly. Usually I don't speak on these things because I share the same views. I don't believe that, that most STDs, or really STDs in general, are that life-threatening. I think it's usually other stuff that manifests disease within the body. So it's not just that. That might have been one of the way that it manifested, but it's probably something else that's a little bit deeper that you have to do some self-work on. And that's probably the reason why you're off balance. So I'm still trying to articulate and figure out a way to address this so it doesn't become a witch hunt as well, because I've seen people speak out with that perspective. And, like, it just turns into a war zone where, you know, you have all people from the medical side being like, you can't tell people this, like, you don't care about people's lives, et cetera, like, and then you have the people on the spiritual side trying to defend themselves saying, you don't get it. Like, there's no such thing as just purely, you know, physical medicine. You're not just a physical human being. So, it's complicated, unfortunately.
It really is. You should have.
I had something to say about that too.
Go ahead.
If now's a good time. It's weird not being on Skype. I like being on Skype. We can see everybody talking. But anyway, so about the whole thing about the medical industry, you know, having like the monopoly on health, right? And which is ridiculous because you know, my baby was born 8 days ago, and we were in this hospital. And the food that they had was just horrible. Like, you'd think in a hospital there would be health food, right, to make you eat healthy. No, this food is shit. Somebody even asked us, "Is that McDonald's?" Like, I mean, it was the worst food I could ever imagine. And we eat healthy, and we were saying that if we ate only hospital food for a certain amount of time, it would make us sick, and then we would have to go to the hospital, and then we would eat more hospital food, you know, And what's amazing? Okay, so when I first met Jen, I was scheduled for heart surgery. I had a abnormally large heart because it was that's how I do my healing is through my heart energy, and so my heart had developed an extra pathway connecting the two, electrical pathway that was firing off too many electrical impulses, and he said my heart was as big as Lance Armstrong's heart. Like, I had a heart like I do triathlons, you know, and so I said, okay, you just tell me what's wrong with my heart. I'm going to go home and I'm going to fix it. And he said, okay, you know, he was like kind of laughing at me. So I went home, and my wife helped me out and did some Reiki with me, and I talked to my shaman, and we figured some stuff out and cleared my heart chakra, and, you know, helped me ground myself and shield myself and doing my sessions. And then a couple months later, I went back for a checkup, and he said, "No fucking way." And he said, "I got to hook you up. I got to hook you up to a machine and to an EKG and do this testing." And they had done an X-ray on my heart. I have proof that my heart was huge. He hooked me up. I was literally scheduled for heart surgery, and he said, "Your heart is better." He said, "I can't explain this." He said, "But we can cancel your surgery now." I said, "Doc, I just told you what we did." He goes, "No. It doesn't happen like that. It just doesn't happen like that." You know, so my heart is better now. And then, you know, then thing number two is, you know, 8 days ago, we went into the hospital to have my baby, and we said, you know, we want to do this natural. We don't want any drugs. We don't want anything. You know, we just want her body to take its course. And the doctor said, well, your water broke. So Jen's water broke at 11 a.m., and then we worked 6 hours worth of sessions after her water broke. and then ended up going to the hospital the next day, and the doctor said, well, because your water broke 18 hours ago, there's a risk of infection, so we need to induce labor with drugs, chemicals.
Right.
And I'll keep this short. Basically, I said, I don't want to do that. I said, I'm a hypnotist. I said, tell me exactly what your pills do to her body and exactly what her body needs to look like, and I will induce labor. And so he said, how long do you need? I said, give me 60 minutes. 60 minutes later, they hooked her up again. She was having contractions. Her cervix was dilated and paper thin. And they had done a test on her just before the session. And they said, yeah, this is why we need to induce, because her body is not looking like, you know. So but what was great was after that, the doctor looked at me and he said, that's amazing. He said, can you do an in-house and teach the doctors how to do that?
Wow.
So I thought that was really great.
That's so awesome, honey.
Yeah. So we got to have the birth that she wanted, you know, and this is why it's a problem when the medical industry has the monopoly on health, you know, because there are so many alternative medicines that are really, really fucking effective, and I've proven that in my life.
Oh, Ben, you make me want to cry.
Wonderful stories. Yeah, great examples, Ben. And it does stem back. I must say I'm a little confused about what the topic is now, but I'm loving the way where it's
medical
going
industry.
and the ground that we're covering. And it still comes back to what my earlier comment was about society as in general. And it comes down to the individual taking responsibility for themselves, just like you did, Ben, with your heart condition, and with Jen and having your baby. You took responsibility for what you wanted for yourself. You weren't sucked in by the medical industry. And that's what every individual needs to do, is to take responsibility for themselves and ask questions and insist, where did that information come from and how true is it, and do research, etc. If we take responsibility, then we can bypass the influence that society has, that movie stars or sports stars have, that the medical industry, the social media industry, everything comes down to ourselves.
This is so hot. I'm going to cool us down for a minute. Let's take a 44-second break, and then we'll be right back and dive into deeper about this thing.
Is your marriage or relationship in crisis? Where one partner wants to expand into their sex and bring scary changes to the relationship, while the other partner is dug in, protective, and saying, "No way in hell is this going to happen." May knows this place well, and she can help both sides. She is truly amazing. Learn more about her specialty, crisis coaching for couples and individuals, at sexliesandconsciousness.com.
Okay, we're back. And before we dive back into our conversations with my beautiful, awesome guests, I'm so excited about today's call. I'm going to give you my email address so that you can email me for your complimentary discovery sessions. So it's my name, May, M-A-I, at my name again, May, Vu, which is V-U, coach.com. So mayvucoach.com. And all you have to do is write in the subject line, "Pick me," and I will respond to your email and set up your complimentary discovery sessions with me. All right, guys, this is so awesome. So now we started the conversation with, HPV and what is it really, and is it really that scary, and should we do all these crazy things that the pharmaceutical company want us to do? And then we got to this now beautiful place of really, seeing and recognizing, bringing in the metaphysical perspective into our conversations of we have the power to create the experience that we want. And if we have these things, if these illnesses are showing up in our life, it's because we are freaked out, we're so scared, we have some huge sexual shame about this thing, and so it shows up as herpes, HPVs, whatever that it shows up as. And you really can heal your body with your mind and with your way of eating, being, and living. And it's very controversial to say that. I mean, I get sweaty armpits just preparing for the show, going, oh my gosh, this is going to be the most controversial show that I've ever done, because how dare I say, HPV, let's move forward, include it into your life, and let's just heal it and move it, and at the same time, it is that, I just keep feeling like there's an invitation to have a different relationship with what we call sexual diseases. We've labeled that sexual diseases, and we all just go into this humongous fear-based, I don't want any of that. And it blocks us from love and connections and truth and forgiveness and acceptance and all this stuff. And I wonder if there's a better way for us to really look at these things that we used to call diseases and embrace it somehow. And I know, again, that's just way to some level of controversial part, that is so not the standard of thinking. Corsette,
well, I think that's what makes it so perfect for us to talk about. And what Godfrey did just before the break was he brought everything in together by saying, think for yourself. And so, like if we do our own medical research and take, our life into our own control, that's where, that's how we heal our own sexual shame too, which is what all four of us are trying to do with our lives, is heal the sexual shame on this planet. And when we get out of that rut, that habit, get out of the stranglehold that society has on us, the monopoly of, telling us what to think, what to believe, what to do. I have a tattoo on my arm that says "Sapere Aude," which is Immanuel Kant's phrase. He calls it the motto of enlightenment, and it basically means think for yourself. Don't listen to what church and society tells you. Think for yourself. It means come up with your own understanding, use your own understanding. And so when we think for ourselves and figure out what's right for ourselves, that's where sexual shame is just obliterated, and that's where these things these illnesses and ailments that happen in our body are also obliterated, because we feel good and we don't feel like shit, and we are eating right, and we take it from there. Okay.
Aria, you want to jump in? I'll make some space for you, honey.
No, definitely touche. What I said to, a lot of people who particularly talk about HPV, I'm like, the best way that you can combat this, if you really are that fearful, is, focus on learning more about your body and your immune system and how all of these things kind of operate, and learn about it outside of a Western context as well. Because not everything can be solved by a pill. A lot of the times diseases in general are just so much more deeper than that. And I just personally don't think that the research that's been done, or the Western research that's been done around cancer, has integrated all of the other aspects of health, that I think need to be discussed. So yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So since we only have a few more minutes left, I want to make more room for you, Ariel, to talk a bit more about Corset Magazines and what you guys are wanting to do behind that, because it's such a beautiful body of work, and the topics that you take on are so bold and so open and so gorgeous. I just want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so, we're really a publication that's driven by the community. We don't have, professional journalists or many professional journalists who write for us. Usually it's just regular people who want to share their stories to sexual empowerment, their struggles, their successes, all of those things. So, it's really just been a joy kind of watching us start off, launching our first issue in December of 2011, and then growing to tackle all sorts of issues from kink and BDSM to masturbation to pornography versus erotica to orgasms, oral pleasure, and our upcoming issue, which is all about sex around the world. So it's just been an incredible joy, and I definitely feel that I'm stepping into, one of my life's callings, which is to help people, move through their sexual shame and to be able to talk openly about sexuality.
That's so hot. It's so hot. I just feel like we're like parallel sisters. We start out our work at the similar time. I started Sex, Life, and Consciousness about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago also. And, I do it on the radio, and I also have done the Google Hangout so that we talk about everything sex-related and all these little tiny angles of sex in just normal everyday life. So hearing what you said about Corset and how it's contributed by just normal everyday people and sharing their stories and all that stuff, and it's audience focus. I love it. I'm so glad I found you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to invite you to join some of our Google Hangouts and talk on some of the subjects that we're tackling out there too. It's really cool. We have one that's just bubbling up, like sex with disabilities. Oh my gosh.
Oh wow.
I'm
great.
Like, oh my gosh, let's talk about that. I'm not talking about that ever yet. So I'm just thrilled. Why don't
awesome.
I see another guest joining us, so I'm just gonna invite this person to speak up. Hi, who are you, and introduce yourself? 361, either that or you don't want to talk. And
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Monica.
Hi, honey. Welcome to the conversation. Thanks for jumping in.
Hello, darling. I had some conference calls and I couldn't get away. So I'm glad I'm able to catch the last few minutes.
Well, introduce yourself at least, so they know who you are and what it is that you do.
Oh, let's see. Well, my name is Monica. I am a psychic medium. Let's see, a relationship and intimacy coach, and a tantrika.
Wow, so
among
many
other
things.
Among
other things. So, do you have any opinions about HPV? That is the subject for today, and whatever goes.
HPV. Let's see.
And this whole big hoo-ha thing about, throat cancers and all that stuff.
It's all about being responsible, and I'm sorry, I missed the whole probably part of everything that everybody says, and I actually, had somebody that I was talking to last week about this very subject, and she was, afraid to tell she has multiple partners, like multiples and multiples of partners, and she never told any of them that she had it, and she was always having unprotected sex.
Mm.
And I said, why would you do that? I said, it is, and I'm also a nurse, so, you're getting the nurse side of me and the intuitive side of me and everything. I'm giving everything to her, and she just was on this mission that, she was just very angry about it, that she got it, and
yep.
she wanted to just leash it out on the world. So, yeah. So I've been dealing, helping her deal with some of her issues. But as far as, I think we do need to be responsible. If it is, if we do have it, then you need to be responsible and let that person know and be, cautious, and because it is very contagious. And I guess I'm out of the loop, and I just saw Michael Douglas the other day, or that whole thing on Michael Douglas, and I have it saved so I can go back and read it. I live out in the country, so I live out in the country, out in some little fantasy land, and I don't really pay attention to much of anything on TV or anything like that.
We have covered this so well today. It's so great. And one of the things that we talked about was this is a very scary subject to talk about because as Ariel so beautifully placed, once you say something, it becomes like this wildfire fight between the strict physical, medical perspective, and then there's this metaphysical perspective of where we are as a human and all this stuff and what we can do with our body. And so it's very challenging to really support and advise and help someone around these things. So why don't we do that? Why don't we just quickly, one by one, go through and say, if you were to give one advice or one support to someone who is dealing with this or who's thinking about this, what is the thing that you want to leave with them? So we'll start with you, Ben.
Oh, shit. I gotta go first.
You got HPV? Oh, shit.
No.
That's good advice.
If they have HPV, I don't know, man. I have no clue. I really take things on such an individual basis, but really what it is it's not worrying about it. Anything you worry about only makes it worse, and because everybody has a different view of everything ever in the entire world, STDs included. So just not worrying about it, and that doesn't mean like Monica said, it means be responsible, but have the conversation without the charge behind it. And the woman that came to me and said, "Hey, I have HPV," it didn't freak me out. It was just something to think about. It was a logistical thing. It was a tactical thing. Okay, what do we do now? I had to do some research about it. She informed me about it, and so my advice is just be conscientious and
okay,
be conscientious and be cool about it.
Ariel, how about you?
I think I would say gosh, it's so hard to just give like one piece of what's that one piece of advice that you can really give somebody. But I definitely agree with Ben. Like, you don't stress about it, because stress does make things worse. And I would just encourage people to try and look deeper. Usually if your body is manifesting something that's obviously not healthy, it's usually something deeper than just the actual disease or the infection. So I would just say, what's going on with your life? I do a full kind of I look at all these different aspects of my life that might be out of whack, or some issues that, maybe I wasn't dealing with. And then I would, start kind of focusing on those things. And honestly, I think if you do that and you really do the work, I think you'd be surprised how your body would react and what would disappear.
Thank you. How about you, Godfrey?
Yeah, well, I would agree certainly with the previous comments, and I'd like to take it one step further about being in relationship. First of all, the honesty and don't stress about it is important, but it's also about using it as an opportunity to go deeper into relationship, not just with yourself, but with your partner or whoever you're with at the time, to share something that is possibly challenging emotionally, and maybe there's some physical adaptation, so to speak. Can take protection or use protection, which will help. But it's about opening up the relationship and speaking about it. And if somebody is going to judge you or another person because of something, then that's an opportunity to move deeper.
Yeah.
So take it to the relationship.
Thank you. I'll go, and then you'll get the last advice. Okay, Monica.
Okay.
I think when it comes to something like this, I would seek out, and I wouldn't stop until I find someone who would totally accept me and love me for that. So in other words, this is just kind of weird. Life is just like a big attraction and mirror thing. Like if I'm wigged out that I have HPV, and to tell you the truth, I can't stop worrying when I have a little piece of paper that said you have HPV. It's just like, what the hell is that? So I can't stop wigging out. But what I would do is I would go and find someone that could have a conversation with me and could love me and could accept me with HPV. So that way I would normalize it. That way I would feel like I'm not alone in the world. Because I think that's what happens to a lot of us, is that we feel really isolated and feel like we're now trash to be thrown out, rather than a really precious human being that has whatever that you have, so that it's included in your life journey. This is part of your life journey. It makes it better and more colorful, whatever it is that you have. So that's what I would do, is I would find people and supporters to hold me and support me and not judge me around that, so that I would just hang out with those people, because it's too scary by myself. Monica, how about you?
I agree with all you guys, and you do have to go to a deeper side of it, and people, it's like, the bullies on the playground, and they want to isolate you and pick on you, and nobody wants to love you, and all that. But at the end of the day, it's their loss. So we have to find that person, or better yet, that person's going to find us. I believe in divine meetings. Everything, they're going to find us. And that person is just going to love us for who we are and for what it is. And, whether it's HPV or any, something else out there. Yeah. I mean, that person is going to understand. They're going to truly see you. They're going to see past that. They're going to look at the bigger picture, because, you shouldn't be labeled. You should be loved.
I have to interrupt you because we have 6 minutes left, and it's going to just end us like that. So I want to give each one of you a chance to share how they can get a hold of you. So, Ben, quickly tell them how people can find you, honey.
You can email me at, check out the website at explosivesexualhealing.com. And then if you have any questions for me, you can email me at ben@explosivesexualhealing.com. Happy to answer questions. Love it. Love the conversation. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Ariel, how about you, honey?
Absolutely. So my site for Corset is corsetmagazine.com. You can find us there. We're also on Twitter at Corset Magazine. We're on Facebook at Corset Magazine. So that's the best way to reach me.
Yes, and Corset Magazine has been experiencing lots of success and supports out there. The last thing that I just saw this morning was that what you guys are now on feature in Ebony Magazine. Is that where Essence Magazine? Is that right?
Yes, we were in Essence, and we were also in Metro International. So we were in 12 editions across the world, which was exciting.
Congratulations, honey! Wonderful.
Thank you.
And let's see. Did I lose Godfrey? Godfrey, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. How do they find you?
Where else would I be? Thanks, May, for this opportunity to speak on this subject and the many others that you've brought up. I certainly enjoy working with people on a detailed, intimate level, and you can find out more information on www.boundtoawaken. That's BOUNDTO awaken.com, all one word. And my email address would be Godfrey, GODFREY, @boundtoawaken.com.
Excellent. And Miss Monica, how do people find you?
Well, let's see. My new website is going up in just about a week, actually.
You have to hurry, honey. You're going to be cut off soon. Hurry.
713-371-6833, or you can email me at artofcentralbeing.com.
artofcentralbeing.com. Repeat your phone number again.
713-371-6833.
Thank you, honey. And last but not least, me. You can find me at May@mayrucoach.com or at sexliesandconsciousness.com. Go there. There's lots of fun things there for you. And also, you can also find me on Facebook, on Twitter. I'm not that big on Twitter and LinkedIn, but Facebook, I'm right there. So you can Google Sex, Lies, and Consciousness or mayrucoach.com. Thank you, everyone, for this beautiful conversation today. It's very courageous, and thanks for going to the edge with me today and sharing the truth about this. And I hope that this conversation has helped a lot of people who are wrestling with their fears around sexual transmitted diseases or whatever else that you're wrestling with. Just go inside and make peace with yourself. And if you can't do it, we'll help you. Any one of us can. Also, if you are interested in looking at some fun conversation on Google Hangout, we are also on there. We do a Google Hangout every Thursday at 6 p.m. on Pacific time. Google Hangout, Thursday, Sex, Lies, and Consciousness at 6 p.m. on Thursday. Have a wonderful week, everyone. I'll talk to you next show. Bye.